All right. Kia ora, everyone, and welcome to the second webinar of the Creative Journeys series, Design Academy series, powered by Squarespace and Design Assembly. My name is Jess. I'm part of the team here at Design Assembly. So thank you all so much for joining us today. Now, if you are not familiar with the Creative Journeys series, this is a series of free in-person and online events taking place across Aotearoa, New Zealand. And at each of these events, we hear from a different designer or a local agency who share with us some tactical design tips and business knowledge. So far this year, we've brought the series to Otautahi, Ponaki, and online. And we've got a few more events coming up in person, which I'll share more about at the end of today's session. So before I go ahead and introduce today's speakers, I just wanted to do a little bit of housekeeping. Now, if you have any questions come up for you during the presentation, if you can please drop them in the little Q&A box. It's down in the bottom. You'll see 9 dots in a square. You can click on that, and then if you click into that, you can drop your questions. Feel free to just pop them through at any point during the webinar, and at the end, we're going to do a Q&A session and address all the questions. And if we have some extra time at the end, what we'd love to do is have a couple people have the opportunity to share a problem that they're facing in their business, and we can see if our speakers, Nick and Hannah, have any solutions or suggestions. And then stick around for the very end of the webinar, as we're going to be sharing a discount code with you guys. And we're going to be recording today's webinar, and you'll be sent a link next week to rewatch the video. So don't feel like you need to be madly scribbling down notes or anything like that. Now, I'd like to go ahead and invite today's speakers, Hannah and Nick Ippolito, to go ahead and turn on their video and mic, and they are going to go ahead and take it away from here.
Hi, everyone. It is so lovely to be here with you. Thank you, Jess and Design Assembly, for welcoming us. This is the second event we've been able to do with you, and we really enjoyed our first one last year, speaking with the Design Assembly crew up in Auckland. And this is a real privilege. We love being online and being able to come to some of the maybe places that aren't so accessible to, Auckland, Wellington, and Christchurch. We ourselves are in Nelson. So we're very aware that sometimes these online platforms give us the opportunity to connect with different people. So lovely to see you all. I want to say hi.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick. I'm married to this one over here. Now, we have a lot of fun together. Again, Hannah said we're a team of, we're actually a team of 13 here in Nelson. And yeah, just really enjoying what I think is starting to get slightly warmer outside. But yeah, we're enjoying hanging out with you a lot here. And I think potentially there's several people that we even know in the chat, as well as potentially even Squarekicker users. So excited to be able to share a bit more with you today.
Yeah, awesome. It's cool to speak to people from New Zealand. We do a lot of this. We were talking to people over in the States. We work with Squarespace, and obviously their majority audience is in the States, but we love talking to New Zealand businesses and kind of helping find solutions that maybe we haven't been aware of previously. So hopefully we can all learn some things here together today. So I'll let you know a little bit about us and what we do, what we're building here in Nelson, and how it can help you. So we are from Squarekicker, which is a piece of software that helps designers, particularly professional designers is where our focus is at, but it's accessible for anyone to use, to extend what you can do with Squarespace. So Squarespace is an amazing platform. We love it. We're going to ramble at you about that in a minute. I'll let Nick talk all about why we love Squarespace. But we really think it is a fabulous platform to be building your business on. And what we saw as an opportunity to extend what you can do with Squarespace. So our product Squarekicker gives you the ability to kind of add new features, new designs, kind of more expressibility that you wouldn't have previously been able to do unless you could code. So it's a lot of what you would have previously done with CSS and JavaScript, and now you can do it in a way that we think is really designer forward. It's sliders, it's visual, and it's just really accessible for everyone to use. So we have a lot of fun. Our kind of heartbeat with Squarekicker is to empower professional designers to live the lives that they want to live. If that means we can provide you tools that help you gain clients that you can charge more to, then that's great. If it helps you go from being a freelancer to an agency because that's your dream, that's great. If it means that you work half the time because you can achieve your same amount of work in half the time and you get to spend the other half of your time doing something else, that's also great. So this is really the heartbeat of our company and why we love doing what we do. As Nick said, we are married, so we started this company together. We remortgaged our house to get it off the ground, which is a great time. I mean, it was a little bit of a, why not? Let's give it a go moment. We actually started it during the pandemic, so it's been running for 5 years, and we now have a team of 13, all based here in Nelson. That's kind of developers and customer support and our creative team, all working under the same roof. So we have a lot of fun together and are really privileged to be able to kind of live and grow in this community. Today, we're going to talk to you a little bit about Squarespace, about why we think it's a really great platform to be building your businesses on. This is whether you're a DIY or whether you're a professional designer building for others. We're going to tell you a little bit about some opportunities that we see using templates in that kind of space. We'll talk a little bit about Squarekicker. So if you haven't seen it before, you'll get the opportunity to have a little look at that. And then we're going to look a little bit at kind of positioning and pricing your work to a real premium level. I think one thing we've noticed, particularly with the cross-section we get to work with across the world, is New Zealanders are notorious for undervaluing themselves and undervaluing what they bring to the table. And so we're just going to give you a little nudge on why we think you might be able to extend your pricing to a little bit more of a premium space and really value what you're bringing to the table. So Nick, I think we had a photo of the team. But
we do actually. We'll share that as well.
Hey, there's our team. So you can see us circled there. I have our little office pup, Toby, on our knee. And that is us. We are an eclectic bunch of people. Some are professionally trained in the jobs that they're doing. Others have just self-taught themselves along the way. And we really appreciate the differences that those bring. So whether you're professionally trained here today and working in the industry that you were trained in, or whether you've kind of been a little bit like us and gone to YouTube and learned those skills, we think there's real value in the way that people approach that work differently. So that's something we try to really embody with our team. Cool.
That's great. Well, we love our team. Actually, half of them are software engineers. So we take a lot of our time and energy building tools that we love, and a lot of them have come from either a software engineering background or a web designer background. So we really understand the pain points, because one of our values is we want to create with empathy. We want to really understand the pain points that you're experiencing as a designer. And a little bit about me is my experience has been basically a self-taught web designer. So I wanted to start a business making websites and taught myself and started a business and carried on. So what I discovered is I really loved Squarespace for the ability to be able to make websites for my clients and pass them on really simply. So why should you maybe choose Squarespace in your business? So there's the things that I love about Squarespace, and there's also a lot of rumors out there and some myths, and specifically like some of the myths out there. So I wanted to kind of go through one at a time. And there's a myth that says that your design business, or the websites that you build for your clients rather, need to kind of graduate to a more mature website platform, such as ... So there's so many other platforms out there as well. So the truth is that Squarespace offers so much power and polish and flexibility for your clients, and it is a great tool. So I actually pivoted all my clients' websites on Squarespace, and with enough creativity, you can pretty much make any website you want. And this is the reason why we created Squarekicker, is we wanted to be able to give people the ability to make everything they want to be able to do without using custom code. So here's some reasons why I think Squarespace is like one of the best platforms to use for your clients. It's all in one simplicity. So it's everything you need to know is right there. You have your design, your hosting, your domains, SEO built in, analytics and security. So all these things are kind of packaged into one. You don't have to start up a server here and find a domain here, and you have to pull these bits and pieces together, and you really have to think more technically than maybe you want to, and you can focus on the design, the delivery, and the handoff is super smooth and easy to use. It's fast and easy to launch and easy to maintain. So it's a professional builder. It's a mobile friendly, which I love. They actually released something called Fluent Engine a few years ago, which allowed you to make a specific design for just your mobile devices and desktops separately. Now, this might maybe take more time, but actually being able to almost create like 2 websites in one, because 60%, maybe even more, of people's websites are viewed on a mobile device. So you probably want to start mobile first and think, how do I make my sites more mobile friendly? So Squarespace makes this really, really easy to use, and then of course to launch. It scales with your clients, so it has things for e-commerce as well. I know people may not think Squarespace is a shop, but you can actually list and sell more products on Squarespace than you can other platforms, funny enough. So the memberships areas has ways to be able to sell businesses who want to sell their time in a course, or selling like content that they want to distribute elsewhere. So it's not just a physical product, but digital products as well as time. So lots of diversity of how people can use the sites, and it scales.
It's getting better and better as well. That's
is.
an area we've noticed Squarespace really building into, is some of the additional things that you can do and offer on top of your website. So I think if that's something that has been a hesitation for you to move to Squarespace because you think it doesn't have those, yeah, go in and check out the new stuff that they've added in there. They keep building on this, and I think they will keep building in this kind of space. So I think it's going to be a space that you can continue to grow into.
Yeah, 100%. A confession is, when I was running my design business about 5 years ago, when a ceiling hit for my e-commerce clients, I would have to go elsewhere because the e-commerce was lacking some things. I would say that now so many things have been improved in the last couple of years alone, that those previous clients, I would have kept them on Squarespace, or would have suggested Squarespace from the get-go, because the shipping, the shopping, the e-commerce, the reselling, the email clients is all packaged in together in one. It makes things so easy to use. And of course, they have the option to make pages and blogs and things really simply, as well as a shop. So it's super nice to use. Designer friendly and client proof. So again, I mentioned Fluid Engine allows you to just put images where you want them to be. And then you can add a whole bunch of really exciting things with Squarekicker, which we will show you later on, and why it makes it super fun to use together. It's reliable. It has a lot of uptime, and it's always up to date. So you don't have to worry about like updates coming through, or security updates, or things not up in line. So you just know that you don't have to worry about backups. Just a whole bunch of exciting things that you can just sit there and focus on the work and the delivery. And lastly, it's backed by a thriving community, and over 100,000 Circle members. Circle is what they call Squarespace's designer community. If you're not a part of Circle, definitely go check it out. There's a forum, there's a community there. There's this thing called code.They coming up later in the year in September, where new products get announced. People are sharing information, and it's a really cool way to getting connected. And I've been a part of a handful of online communities, and Circle is by far the most authentic and best online community I think I've ever been a part of.
They're all there to help each other out, aren't they? It is a really great community. So if you are on Squarespace and you haven't gotten involved in there, I would highly recommend it. They're amazing.
Yeah. I would assume if you are a web designer and you've used Squarespace before, you probably are a Circle member, but maybe you haven't maximized the amount of cool things you can do as a Circle member, such as just being a part of the forums and sharing information, and definitely part of the meetups and Circle Day, of course, as well. So if you're not involved in those things, I would definitely encourage checking them out. It makes a lot of difference, especially if you're working from home as a freelancer. Lastly,
I think another thing worth mentioning is one thing we've noticed within the New Zealand environment is a lot of clients have a really odd perspective about Squarespace. There's still this kind of hang up of it's not a real platform. And although I feel like professional designers are maybe understanding this more and understanding the breadth of what Squarespace can offer, clients sometimes don't, and they come with these preconceived, perspectives of what to expect from their web builder. And so they'll come to you as a designer and they'll be like, hey, I want to go build on this because, great aunt Mary told me that it was the best thing to do. And so I think learning how to educate our clients on why these platforms are really, really good and the value that they can find in there is really useful. So even having like a quick, slide that you share or something on your website that talks about the platform that you want to prefer to use and explaining why. And I think just a little bit of that education helps bring them in, because there's so many benefits to you as a designer being on Squarespace and to your client. And it's just giving them that little nudge in the right direction of why they're going to be safe and secure on Squarespace. Yeah.
And you can make some very simple, easy one-page websites that might have taken maybe a $500 to charge, but I've honestly charged right up to $3,000 to $5,000 to even $30,000 for a Squarespace website. So it is possible to make some really big, complex, very cool websites on Squarespace, and it can scale to any size business. So it's very good point to make, Hannah. Thanks. Now, we wanted to share some cool stories because we get the opportunity of meeting with designers from all around the world, and we get to meet people like this. So Michael is he actually is a lot of things, but I'll just try to give you a brief summary. So Michael is a Squarekicker user, and he uses it for his design business, Vative Creative. He's also a template creator. So we have a template store, which we can share more about later on, and he is a phenomenal designer and translate that into templates. He had a pretty impressive story when we met him. He came to us and said, look, I was so ready to give up on Squarespace. I was ready to go to another platform where I can do the things I wanted to do and my clients wanted to do. And then I found Squarekicker, and it allowed me to actually the freedom and the control to actually visualize anything I wanted to. And he doesn't know how to code whatsoever, but you look at his websites, you look at his templates, and you're like, this is so custom. Like, you must have got like 3 developers to come in here, redesign this, but it was all him. He's actually a full-time teacher. So he teaches, I want to say, like math is his kind of, his math teacher, of course. And then he spends his weekends and evenings doing web design, and he's got a whole bunch of other side hustles I won't even get into, but so he is an amazing designer, and we've become good friends with him. So there we go. He actually considered moving to Webflow. And since he's jumped onto Squarekicker, we've had a chance to meet him, and he's a lovely guy, but he's also said how his business is thriving. He's gotten clients coming to him now, like asking him to pay him to do work up to $150 an hour, that he's getting all different referrals coming in. The template store has allowed him to get his showcases work a bit more. He's selling his templates on there, and then people are charging him to kind of build those templates out. He's also started this really cool new thing called Cube Awards. So if you haven't checked it out, go to Cube Awards, just Google that, and you'll find a Squarespace design competition where you can submit websites that you have done or other people have done, and go into a judging panel and create these awards for like the best designed Squarespace website. So really cool resource that's just starting this year. Definitely recommend checking that out. He's also a part of the Squarespace community leader with us as well, which involves some one-on-one talks monthly with the Squarespace team on how we can improve the product that we're all working on together. So he's a pretty amazing, phenomenal designer, and it's just really cool to see him just use Squarespace to a level that I think we didn't even know was possible until we see what designers like him had to do with it. And he is an artist first, not a developer. So he wants to focus on the work he's looking at visually and be able to visually create that in Squarespace. Even with Squarekicker has allowed him to kind of be really successful.
Yeah, and I guess we share this with you to kind of hopefully break down some of those limitations that we're feeling about, can I be a proper web designer using Squarespace? Can I actually build a full company that supports myself and my family using Squarespace websites? And this is absolutely possible. Michael has proven that, and time again, we hear those stories of people that are developing really, really thriving web design businesses using these tools that are really accessible. And you can be design first, you can be artist first. You don't have to be diving into the code to make things that are really amazing. One thing, I feel like there's some, like we spoke about, kind of those limitations that maybe clients feel sometimes on what Squarespace can offer. And one thing that we've understood is a feeling that professional designers have around using templates on Squarespace. So this is really common practice. If you've been in other web builders, you've probably been onto things like ThemeForest and you've bought those templates on there. It's a really common practice on a lot of other platforms, and it hasn't been on Squarespace. And I think that's because of some of these like limiting beliefs that people have put on the platform and designers that use them. But what we're seeing is some really significant opportunities for people to push their design business further using templates. So what we'd like to say is they're a smart move for you and your clients. It's not a shortcut. It's not like a cheat way of building a website. It's just a really, really good tool that you can put into your kind of tool belt. So there are some really high quality templates that are available to you. you might want to use these to like take on more clients, so you can build these websites out a lot faster if you're using a template base. You can increase your margins because you can cut down on the time that you spend kind of building up that first wireframe. If you've got a template, a lot of that structure's in there for you, and you can create some consistency in your process. There's, I think, a lot of advantages to using templates, and it's a really exciting area that we're seeing a lot of people moving into. We've got a quote here from one of our users called Brittany, who said, using the template saved me time, a few weeks of design and build time, which she said kind of translates into thousands of dollars. So it's these kind of tools and tips that we're really passionate about encouraging designers to use, because there's these thoughts that, like, if I use these kind of tools, I'm not a proper designer. What if my client finds out that I'm using these? And it's just not true, and it's holding kind of your design business back. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for growth in there when we can kind of embrace these tools and use them without kind of feeling worried that maybe we're not professional enough. Yeah, they're strategic, not simplistic. You can use those faster timelines. There's heaps of room for creativity when you're using them, and you can get really premium results for smaller budgets. So say a client comes to you and they have a $30,000 budget and they want that full custom build, and you're able to offer that to them, then great, that's a great solution for them. If it's a smaller company and they just need something that either they need to get it up quickly, so they've got a really short timeline that you need to work with, or they have a really small budget, using a template is a really great way of being able to offer them a solution that you can still make money from, because that's important in your business, and you can offer them a really good end outcome because you're starting with this template base, which is allowing you to produce that work for them. We talked about kind of using templates, but I think there's a couple of different ways that you can kind of present those to your clients. So there's two ways that we see most commonly. There's one where you kind of listen to your client and absorb their needs, and then go away and find a template, or maybe two templates that you want to propose to them as a foundation, or you just pick them yourself and start there. Or you can actually show them through like a template store, and have them kind of select and be a part of that process. So depending on the type of client that you're working with and how involved you like them to be in the early stage, it can be a really good way of kind of getting them to visualize what their end website looks like. I'm sure we've all been in the scenario where a client's like, I know exactly what I want, and I'll know it when you build it for me and I see it. And then you build them something and it's not quite right. And so they've kind of got this in their head. So if you've got a client like that that's a little bit indecisive, or kind of knows what they want but they can't quite articulate it, a template can be a really good way of doing that, because you're starting with a base that you can both see. They don't have to visualize it if they're not that way inclined, and you kind of know what you're leading that out with.
What I really like about templates, I use them a lot when I was making websites for clients, is it's a faster way to build as well. So you as a designer, nothing is taken away, because you can start with a template. Quite literally, you start with a template. We do this with a lot of other things in life, and then you put your own spin on it. You can actually use components of that, different fonts and different colors, and you tweak it and change it and make it your own. And before you know it, it's almost unrecognizable from what the template was. However, you've used something to help you get a springboard to that spot a whole lot faster and more affordable. And third, if you are a person who is really good at copy or really good at branding, but maybe the web design is just like, that's not your specialty, design and copywriting is, a template allows you to put those skill sets you have to work inside of a template. So actually you don't have to worry about the heavy lifting of the technical piece. Those are all built together, and you can put your passion into those bits of work.
Yeah. So Squarekicker, our company, does have a template store. It's a new launch for us at the end of last year. And this came out of listening to some of our designers that were using the Squarekicker product and what they wanted to do next. And what they always said is, like, we want to be able to build templates. We want to be able to offer this service. And so we have created a space where they can do that. So all of the templates that you see in the Squarekicker store are made by Squarekicker users. They're not made by us. We just are able to offer this platform. So it's a really cool opportunity for them as designers. And if you're interested in creating templates, you can have a look at what it looks like to create a template with us. Or if you want to use templates, this is a great resource to come in. There's over 100 templates. There's so much variety because we have all of these fabulous designers coming in. There's a huge amount of different styles, of different industries that are represented here. So I would definitely recommend going and checking that out. Like we said, it's just a really good way of being able to grab this base and then changing it into something that's perfect for you or your clients. So it's a great opportunity if you don't have a website and you're wanting to DIY one, and you don't have the budget or you don't want to go through a professional designer, you can go and grab a template and you've got a lot of that heavy lifting done. There's that designer edge on it already. Or if you're a professional and wanting to work in that way, you can come in here and check them out. We're actually going to have a look at a template that someone has taken and changed into a beautiful design. So we have a template here called Studio 510, and it is made by Vative Creative. So this is Michael, the designer that we shared before. There is no custom code in this. This is just using Squarespace and Squarekicker together. So there's no additional custom code. So you can see it's just set up beautifully. There's lots of thought that's been put into all of these pages and sections. You can add Squarekicker templates to a new or an existing site. So if you're doing a rebuild for someone, you can slot a template in, no worries. Or if you're starting from fresh, you can put a template in as well. You can add pages and sections as you like. It's built really differently to kind of traditional templates. So there's a lot of kind of power behind how you can use these templates. And one of the really cool things that we've found in the system that we've created for people to be able to use templates in this way is you can add so much creativity to it. So there's no limit to how you can customize and alter this template. So if we jump on now to someone who has purchased this template, David, and he's made the visual brain. So you can kind of see some hints here of what that template looked like, but he's put his own spin on it and it looks like something completely new and completely fresh and perfectly fits his brand. So he has actually made this one for himself. It's not a designer that's created this. He's an artist and he's used this template to build out his own work. And we just think that's a really cool example. Clark, sorry, I called him David, didn't I? Clark. It's a really cool example of kind of how you can take a template and customize it and make it your own.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I love this template. It's really, really fun watching the creativity unfold of what a template was and what a template became. My favorite example is when someone had a barbershop template and they turned it into a search and rescue website, which of course is exactly what I would have saw when I saw that template. So very, very fun and exciting. Awesome. So we switch back to our slides here and let's go through some exciting creativity that we can use for Squarekicker. So we've been talking about Squarekicker this whole time, and what is Squarekicker? So Squarekicker is obviously a company, but the first bit of the piece of the work that we worked on is the extension, and the extension is essentially a builder that you can install straight into your Squarespace website, which allows you a native UI, which stands for user interface, gives you sliders, gives you drop downs, gives you things to click, things to do. And when you're doing it, as you can see in this video in front of us here, is actually physically animating it right in front of your eyes. So you get to play with it while you're building it. This is essentially what it's doing. It's adding custom code to your site, but you don't see that code because you don't need to. You just want to play with it visually and design without having to worry about copying and pasting code. Did I put it in the right area? Did I select the right ID? Did I put the right CSS in? The JavaScript's broken. I don't understand why. You can just play with Squarekicker, design what you want. It's no set of rules, no set plugin. You have to be locked in design. You get tools to build whatever you want, however you feel like it, and it's built straight into Squarespace rather. And that custom code, what the exciting thing about it is stored in your code injection area, and it's updated for you. So if Squarespace make an update, because again, it's always improving, always updating, that code is getting updated for you. So we roll out those fixes, those updates to your website, so your clients can kind of be safe without having to worry about what happens if. Squarekicker will take care of them. We've got you in this. So it's actually really a self-service, not self-service, a software that allows you to build websites visually without using custom code. So I wanted to show you some examples here of what you can do and how it works. So if you mind, I'm just going to jump over into a page here and show you a bit of a demo. So this is where live demos are exciting because things can always go crazy, and I get way too excited. So Hannah's going to tap me on the shoulder if I take too much time. So here we go. So we have a Squarespace section here, and there's a video playing in the background. Now, just to show you how this tool works, I'm going to go into edit mode and open up Squarespace as my visual builder. And what I'm going to do here is actually going to create a little bit of animation to this text block. So what I can do here is open this up. And here's the SK button where I'm going to launch a specific set of new tools that didn't exist before in Squarespace that I can now play with. So I've already done a couple things to my fonts, but I'm going to go in here and get a border because I think that would be kind of fun. So I'm going to add a little bit of a border here, maybe a couple pixels, and I'm going to make that a chalk white color. I'm also going to do some other things in here. I'm going to make it slightly rounded because I think that's cool. Now, I need a bit of breathing space, so I want to go in here as well and add a bit of vertical spacing and horizontal spacing. So something as simple as that with custom code was probably actually the only way I could have done something like that. And you can see how quick and easy it was for me to do that for this one block. I can turn this into a preset if I wanted to and replicate this on other blocks across my site, and they are synced together. So if you make a change elsewhere, they will change anywhere you've used that preset. Now here's some other fun animations that you can do with it. So if I want to go to background, of course I could do something like make a background color. You know, that's kind of cool and it's great. But if I revert that, then the filters are actually quite fun. So instead of the background color, I want to make this grayscale. So anything behind it is a filter of grayscale. Or I could choose inverted, which is kind of for that weird techno feeling, or blur, which if you can see here is a bit of a glass morphism effect where the things behind it are actually blurred. So this can just be a really fun, useful thing for kind of blurring backgrounds and creating unique shapes around the site. So I won't spend too much time in going over every tool because you can see we will be here for a very, very long time. But some fun ones, this is a newsletter block. So it looks very different from just a standard newsletter block. There's a quick hot tip here. If you want to kind of visually see what it was like before Squarekicker came along, and that's holding your Option, or if you're on a PC, Alt and H. And if you hit that key, it goes back to the default of what it was before. So you can see I've taken this newsletter block, which was a default Squarespace block, and added some crazy things to it. And now I've made this really cool custom newsletter input field. So I think that's pretty fun. Another fun thing you can do is called a footer reveal. So you would have seen it on some templates, super easy to do in your tools. So I'm going to jump into my Squarekicker tools at the top. I can make things happen just from my site or just from my page. But if I go into my advanced tab and I go to footer reveal, oh, that's enabled on the whole site. That's right. I want to go to my page now. My page, advanced, and my footer reveal. I'm going to flick on footer reveal for my page, and now I can see this reveal for my footer just appear just like that. Again, something that's so easy to do, but with code is actually quite complex. And we saw people hunting for forms all over the place with all the crazy code to make this happen. But with one click, you can achieve something as simple like this. All right, I'm just going to give you some more demos and tutorials here because this is too exciting. Hover is probably the simplest, but also maybe frustrating animation to create with custom code. So I've got a block here, and I've got a hover effect just doing something simple. Like a lot of you would have seen this on websites. Some of you have created this elsewhere, but on Squarespace, this is a little bit hard to do because you've got a text block, an image block, and different things going on. So what I've done is I will just show you the process to create this. So first, I'm going to start with an image block. As you can imagine, quite simple. I'm not going to do anything to that, but what I am going to do is create a text block, and I'm going to layer that straight over the top, covering the whole area. And you can see I've got this text here, but now I want to create a background. So let's put a background color on here, and let's do a chalk color, but I want to see the image, obviously, so I'm going to actually make this slightly transparent, something like that. So that's my kind of after hover effect. The next thing I do is I'm going to bring another image and pop it straight over the top. Now, obviously, I want this to animate on hover, so reveal what's underneath it. So if I go to my Squarekicker tools and go to my effects, I have an opacity slider, as you can see, so I can actually hide the image. But what I want to do is hide this image on hover. So I click my hover icon, and now I can design what my block looks like when I hover on it, and I'm going to make this fully invisible. So now, as you can see, if I hover on it, I get this really cool effect. So very simple. Again, I can't tell you how long it would take me to custom code that. Probably 15 minutes if I'm honest. But you can see here, that's not where it stops. You can create all sorts of cool hover effects, changing images and text, and create some really cool, fun stuff. And even buttons, your imagination could run wild. And I've just made some crazy ones here that would just, rock some people's world to think about the kind of things you could actually make with hover effects. Let's go through just a couple things you can do. I'm not going to go into detail of how I made them, but you can watch lots of tutorials just like we've done here. This thing is called Magnetic Motion. It's a new tool we've just created, which allows the user to kind of play with different tools and animate them. And one of my favorite one was the entire screen. It follows your mouse cursor around like it's following it with eyes. It's pretty cool. Scrolling effects is one of our most popular tools. It allows you to animate elements on the screen while you scroll. So you can see here, things are sliding, they're growing and scaling. They're also changing color on scroll. Images are rotating and finding themselves in a different rotating position. Changing on scroll, just a lot of really cool stuff you can do. Lastly, is horizontal scrolling, probably arguably our most exciting feature. And sometimes you can create images like this that slide across. What you do is simple. I can show you this one because it's actually really easy to implement. You go to your sections. I have my 2 sections here, and I just want to make this my first section of my horizontal scrolling trigger. Go to my section tools this time, and advanced, you'll see horizontal scrolling, and I just enable it just like that. And now I've got my horizontal scrolling track, but I want that image in the background to be fixed for my whole track. So I go down here, fixed image, and voila, you got the same image I just created with 2 clicks, a whole bunch of JavaScript, and you are away. Lastly, there's some other fun stuff. If you combine scrolling effects and horizontal sections, things are bouncing in, bouncing out. And very last one, Hannah's tapped me on the leg. She's like, you need to speed this up because I can spend all day here. Is a thing called fixed scrolling, which I'm going to show you all the cool stuff. There's so many things that you can do with Squarekicker. It's crazy. But I have 2 sections here, and I'm going to use a feature called fixed scrolling. And so you make both sections almost identical, but you change a couple elements like the color and the image. And so I've got the same background, or sorry, same content, same text lined up exactly. But what I'm going to do is go to my section, advance, and fixed scrolling, flick on both content and background, and now my whole content is fixed. That could be all you want to do, which is honestly pretty cool on its own. But the really fun thing is when you combine multiple sections and then do that again to another section below it, fixed scrolling, content, and background, and watch what happens here. I mean, that is so cool.
Pretty cool.
I love it. I love this effect when things are getting revealed on hover and scroll. So I'm going to stop there because we can do this for 2 or 3 hours and never stop. So
we can do
we'll
it
finish up
all day long. And if this has excited you a little bit about some of the possibilities, we do have a whole bunch of tutorials and things available on YouTube. So you can go check those out, or just give us a call. Well, don't call us because we don't have phone numbers, but
we're in New
give us
Zealand.
an email. And we will get back to you. We love helping people see what they can do with Squarespace and Squarekicker. I think one of the things we were really hoping we would help people walk away with today is this idea that you aren't limited with Squarespace, that you can use this platform that's super intuitive for you. It's super intuitive for your clients. It's just a really great place to build your company, and you can extend it beyond. So you can actually push into some of those premium spaces. And when you're doing that, what we really want to encourage you to do is start charging what you're worth in that space. So when you're offering these things, just because it's taking you 2 clicks doesn't mean that you can't charge the amount that is worth for the value that you're providing for your client. So you can imagine a client walking away with some of those features on their website. They're going to be so thrilled with the outcome that you've got. So really encouraging you to kind of look at the value you're providing for your clients there and extend what you're able to do by using these tools that can just kind of flesh out your toolbox.
Yeah. A book I read early on in my design career was, I can't remember the author, but it's called Design is a Job. And it really challenged me to say, actually, my worth is not on how much I can make in an hour, but the value of how long it took me to learn how to do the things that I'm doing. So if you're a designer, you might have trained professionally, you might have spent a lot of time training yourself, you might have experience. A lot of different pieces go into that create value for you. So don't be afraid to charge what you're worth and the value you give. So one thing I started to do as well professionally is I started to charge my hourly rate, but then what happened is I would get faster and I get faster. And so should I now make less money because now I'm more efficient, or should I charge more? So I started to charge more. So I had an hourly rate that increased over time. Some people like to do it per project. So they might have charged $3,000 for a full website build, and that would have been 60 hours of work. I don't know. And now it's taken them 20 hours of work so they can take on more work to make more money. So it's about identifying the value you're presenting to someone else and what they walk away from. And when you buy a car, you're not thinking, did it take them 600 hours to make that or 300? I don't know how many hours it took you to make that car, but you buy it based on the value, representation, and the quality. And that's what someone wants in a website. So here's just a couple ticks and tips rather. Is be confident in your value. Present yourself. What I used to do as well is present a proposal. So I'd make a whole website on my website, a whole page, and brand it to them. I give them their quote, the process, the messaging. I give them a password. I lock it, and I send them a link to their own professionally built page with their quote on the whole process, the ability, what's going to happen, the team, and I would basically have a box at the bottom that would say tick to accept quote, and that would give an email that says that they were keen. That was kind of my contract, that they were ready to go. So just some tips like that could be quite an easy way to wow your clients in pitching that proposal to them. Sometimes I presented rather 3 different prices of here's what you wanted, so this is how much it costs. If you are not wanting to spend that much, take off a few bits of things that you would do for them to create a lower tier. So they have an option to go lower, but then think, what if we took this to the next level? What if we just went above and beyond any of your expectations and pitched a really crazy, outrageous price and something exciting to do? And like to the point of, man, if they chose that, I'm going to be so excited. And then often what I found is people are often seeing 3 options. They choose the most expensive one because they want the Mercedes. They want the thing that's going to make their business soar. And so I would try also pitching 3 different versions, but don't make it smaller because you feel bad. Make it smaller by taking things away or adding more value on top of that. Yeah, so that's just kind of a story I could share from there. You're being paid for your insight and skill, not just the time behind the computer. So we kind of went over that. So your experience is super valuable. And so we really want you to make sure you know what you're worth. And again, I skipped the gun. I went straight to the bottom, try different various packages for doing either a template kind of project where we talked about building a website for a template costs this much, building a 1-day website costs this much, custom projects, etc. Start at a baseline and work your way up. Yeah,
I think there's lots of different types of clients that come to you, and you'll start to know what types of clients are around you, whether you're working kind of in your local area or we know lots of people in kind of New Zealand, Australia that are attracting clients from overseas as well. So kind of having these different types of packages for different types of clients. So when someone comes to you, you know what to kind of offer them, you know what's going to suit them. And it's fine to say, hey, your budget is this, here's what I can offer you. So you can still give them a product, but it doesn't have to take you all the time and you end up, not earning anything of it. Or, sometimes you might just do custom projects and actually you don't want that other work, and that's fine as well. But if you do want to be able to pick up some smaller jobs, it's nice to have an option that you can offer them that's going to be affordable to them as well. So yeah, different opportunities in there. Again, this is something that we've talked a lot with our customers about, and they are significantly smarter than us. We have amazing customers from all over the world, and we're actually producing a series of blogs at the moment on different ways that they are doing these kind of packages or building reoccurring revenue into their streams, so kind of maintenance packages or, you know, done in a day kind of builds or website audits, all of these things. So if you're interested in what those types of other opportunities are, go and check out the Squarekicker blog. And there's also a webinar coming up where we're talking to some of our users that are offering these things. So if that's something that you are considering adding to your business, there might be a useful resource for you there to explore that a little bit more.
Yeah. If you want some tips as well on if you're looking at Squarekicker and you might use it already, or maybe you're thinking about wanting to try it out, this isn't a sales pitch, but if you want to actually use Squarekicker in your product, there's two ways of actually doing that. One is rather than selling it as like a package deal for just your client. So you say it might cost this much to you know, $30 a month or whatever it is to put this site together. You don't actually need to keep paying for that subscription for the life of it. So when we built Squarekicker, I would hate to buy a website and then add a bunch of plugins that cost money and then say, here's your website cost bill. And also here is this monthly subscription you need to pay as well on top of that to keep all these custom things. So it didn't quite sit right with us. So we've made it a tool that you use to build websites, and then you can cancel and then you can send it to your client without the overheads ongoing subscription. So hopefully that helps kind of clear up what a subscription looks like using Squarekicker. You can look at it as two ways. You can absorb the cost because it saves you time. So you're not having to write custom code, find custom code, so you can build faster and easier. Or second, you can actually just work it into your overhead. So like many people would do with Adobe, you wouldn't charge your client for Adobe for that month. You would think, how could I use Adobe to make my design better and easier and faster? And you'd work that into your project costs as an overhead. So there's two ways you can kind of also price for that, as apart from just onboarding that cost to your client.
Cool. Well, hopefully you have found that interesting. We could talk about these kind of things all day, and we often do. I just got off recording another podcast, which was really fun, talking to a bunch of our users. So we could keep going forever, but I'm not sure if there's some questions or if we can help with any kind of business issues you might be having. We're happy to jump on and do that. Now, if you are interested in Squarekicker, there is a code that you can use here that we've set up for Design Assembly. It's 20% off templates and the Pro extension, and that's available to you until the 31st of August. So feel free to go ahead and use that. Jess, have we got any questions?
I'm sure we'll have some coming in just a minute. Thank you guys so much for sharing that. There was so much in there. It's awesome. I love that you address some of the myths that Squarespace had, you know, that are kind of surrounding Squarespace, and also kind of planting the seeds of what's possible. I think people are going to walk away and be like, ooh, I can't wait to give these little ideas a try. Okay. So we've got one coming through here now. So have you had any feedback from Squarespace designers around how Squarekicker has impacted their workflow or project timelines?
Yeah, goodness, so much. You can read a bunch of those stories on our website, or go on to the YouTube channel and you'll see plenty of those stories on there. But I think one thing that we hear more often than not, and this maybe speaks just to the timeline, but maybe you can talk about that, is how much fun they have with the creativity they get to add using these tools. So they're not kind of burdened by trying to do that code, but they can just have fun designing, and it's a lot faster for them to kind of create those things. And so they can put a lot more interesting things in without the risk of their client going, oh, I don't like that. Can you take it out? And you're like, oh my goodness, that was like 5 hours of my time creating that one feature. So you can kind of experiment a little bit and try a few more of these things. And then if your client is, you know, like, I love that feature, but I want it blue instead of, you know, purple, you can do that really, really quickly and make those changes. So it's really easy on that client feedback time, but certainly adding those extended kind of design features, this saves a huge amount of time.
A story from a designer in Romania. I love this guy, and he hasn't given permission to share exactly who he is or his story, but I'll share his feedback from us. And he says, before I started using Squarekicker, we were using Squarespace for our client builds, and we're making maybe 4 to 6 websites a year in their design business, custom websites, charging well, and doing good work.
Very, very extensive websites. So they were really, really full builds.
Very custom, etc. And he was using a lot of custom code, and that's how much it took and how long it took. And he said, since finding Squarekicker, we make more than 20 websites a year now. And that just blew my mind that he could actually make. And it wasn't like he was getting, he was just basically working so much faster and could take on more work. And because of the kind of work he's producing, he was getting more work. So that really gets us up in the morning that we're actually able to help serve someone like that in another part of the world, to be able to build faster and quality to the point where they can actually charge more, scale more, and do more. So it's really pretty fun.
I think one thing you kind of just touched on there is like, because he was creating that work, he was getting more work. And I think that's one thing, particularly in New Zealand, where like we all talk, right? And Nick always likes to say he's from the States. And in the States, if you get a bad coffee, you'll just go back to the shop and you'll say, hey, I got a bad coffee. Can I have a new one? And in New Zealand, we'll just take that bad coffee and we'll say, yum. And then we'll tell all our friends
and never
that it was a
back.
really bad coffee,
and
we won't go there. So I think, word of mouth is so important in New Zealand and so important in our business communities. And if you can wow a client, and if you can give them that little bit extra that makes them feel like you've really captured their vision and captured their personality, then they will go and tell people about that. And that will be a huge resource for you in your business as you grow.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Okay, we've got another question come through. What common mistakes do you see designers make when using Squarespace or Squarekicker for the first time?
I can tell one. It's not common. The funny thing with Squarespace is you can't break it, right? Like I've used other platforms in the past and I've been experimenting with things and trying to use custom code, and then I'm like, oh no, I broke everything. The page is day 404. I can't figure out what's going on. I need to start over. Like, how do I start over? With Squarespace, you can just throw custom code in there, and then if it doesn't work right, you can delete it. So you haven't lost anything. With Squarekicker, you can try changes and custom things. If you don't like it, you can kind of remove it. So it's like, you can clear the settings rather. So you can experiment a lot. So I don't think there's common mistakes that people make, but what I do see is actually so many common mistakes of how people use custom code, and it doesn't aggravate me or stress me out, but it just like, oh, Squarekicker is not working. Like, oh, that's because you wrote custom code that's breaking the Squarekicker. It's like, it's not there's any mistakes necessarily, but it just, when you're not always writing code, we're not developing all the time, you pick up maybe bad habits from like how AI has taught you to do it, how another form taught you to do it. If you've ever written CSS, you use these things called important tags, which are like, imagine the American in the room who just shouts the loudest, listen to me. Like, that's what the important tag does. And you should use in code, you should always use those very sparingly, like not a lot. And when people put them in there, it's not working, I'll put an important tag on it, which they didn't realize on another page somewhere else it broke something, they carry on. So there's probably more how you use custom things together. And then when you go and buy plugins, extensions, and you think, if I just wow my client with how impressive they think I am with all the things I can do, and I put all of them on the website together, it becomes this crazy hot mess. And I think they think it looks good because look at all the animations I can do, but nothing goes together. So that's why like less is more. So I think those are probably the two mistakes I see the most.
I'm going to touch on that less is more one as well. Less from a visual perspective. I think that's really important, but from a learning perspective. So whenever you're putting a new tool into your tool belt, just biting off a little bit. So I think one thing that can occur when you pick up a new tool like Squarekicker is it can be quite overwhelming. There's so many opportunities of different things that you can do in there. So I think, go and master have a couple of things that you really want to try out or really want to add into a certain site and put those in, and then next time maybe layer on a couple more. So there's lots of opportunities to do that. And I think just slowly building it into your tool set is a really smart way of still being able to like get the work out the door, because that's important, is signing off projects and getting paid for them, but then also being able to kind of learn them as you move through different client work.
Layering, that's a good one. Just kind of talking back about handing over to clients, okay, because I know that you'd mentioned being able to sort of toggle off the subscription when they hand it over, and I guess with designers that want to hand over their websites to their clients and then allow their clients to make minor tweaks, text changes or whatever, how does that, have you talked to many of your designers about like any handover issues or ways to make that go smoothly?
Yeah, so from experience, I didn't want to be into the website maintenance game. So I would create websites that are fully handoverable, and I would make sure that they became the owner, they were paying for the subscription, and they essentially became responsible for the website, not me. And I didn't want to do any maintenance because I was a designer. I wanted to create things, not maintain them. So I probably missed out on some ongoing revenue because I could have charged more for just like, hey, call me when you want me to change your homepage every month, but I didn't. That can sometimes be a creative way of holding on to the client so they don't mess up the site. So some users actually hold on to the website as the owner. They get them to pay for the subscription, and they say, look, if you need anything done, come to me and I will change it for you. So then their website always stays intact. They're not messing up the layout. They're not breaking the design. So it's easier to hand off when you don't have to hand off. You just tell your client to come back every time you want me to update it. But sometimes you want them to be able to do some things like, create a blog, which is not a big deal, but please don't go in and change the site styles or the fonts or any of those things, or even use Squarekicker on any of the websites. So it's nice to be able to kind of hold off on some things. But what I have done personally, and this is how I've done it, so I can only speak to me, is I hand off everything and I give them Loom videos of how to use their site and say, when you want to create a blog, you go into here, you duplicate this blog, you change the title, don't forget the thumbnail, here's the SEO description, write your blog, hit publish, and I make a whole Loom video and I file that away and I make sure that they have that. So anytime they need to do certain aspects repetitively, they don't have to email me every time, how do I do that? They can refer to the Loom video and watch it as many times as they want every time, because they're not in there every day. They're busy making shoes or houses or sparking.
Are you making a Loom video for every client?
Yeah, I was. At the end of every project, I would create a Loom video on certain aspects that they want to do for that website specifically. So that's how I would offboard a lot of clients.
Wow. That's great. I'm sure that was super helpful though for them.
I worked that into my costs for my overnight project. It's going to take me
value-based pricing.
3 hours of work for onboarding videos. I need to factor into my pricing. So my pricings were set because I knew all those things had to be covered.
It also saves time in the long run as well, right? Like we've all been in that situation where the client emails back like 6 or 12 months after you've signed off a project and they're like, hey, I just want to do the blog. I want to add that in. And you have to go then and reply to them because you're a good person and you're going to help them with their business. But if you've made that video already, you can be like, please refer to this video that I already made. And so it's just a really good time saver in hindsight as well, if you've got clients that are kind of coming back repetitively.
Yeah, so that's a good little takeaway tip, everyone, if you're listening. Well, I think we're just going to go ahead and wrap up since we're kind of getting to the end of our time frame. So for everyone listening in, just coming up next, if you are based in Tamaki Makaurau, we have got our Redesigning Aotearoa workshop coming up this Friday. So if you want to grab one of the last remaining tickets, you can head over to our website. And if you are a Design Assembly member, you can use your discount code at checkout. And then our next Creative Journeys event is going to be in person, and it's coming to Tamaki Makaurau. And this is going to be really exciting because the team from PHQ are going to be presenting, and they're going to really show how they have pushed Squarespace's platform and all the things that you can do as well. So that should be really interesting to come along. Again, it's free, so if you're in the area. And then our final Creative Journeys event is happening in October in Kirikiriroa. And we are going to be learning from the Daymark team. They're going to be taking us through their brand strategy. So definitely pop into those if you are in the area. And then lastly, if you're new to Squarespace, we have a discount code that you can use for if you are new for an annual subscription. It gives you 20% off. So you can copy that code. It's Design Assembly 20. And I believe that is all for today. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and thank you to Nick and Hannah for sharing some really wonderful tips with us today and giving us all some cool ideas to go and play around with. And we will see everyone hopefully at one of the upcoming events.
Cool. Thanks for having us. It was great to be with you all.
See you, everybody.
Bye.